Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today going to talk a little bit about a preview against the Denver Broncos. Before we get started, just a reminder that we all Bears fans. We can disagree respectfully, as we all want the Bears to win. I started my Patreon campaign. Check that link out in the description if you want to consider supporting the channel financially so we can continue to do more fun stuff. All right, so with that being said, again, want to kind of talk about going into the Broncos game. It's been a while. I mean, we played on Thursday, so it feels like it's been a while since talked about the Bears. And, you know, life goes on. We got stuff to do, but I definitely wanted to come out and, you know, just speak a little bit of Bears talk before we get into it. So we are now moving on to week 2, even though with the whole fiasco of last week. And look, I've made my thoughts clear on it. Actually, though, linked in the description box to a video done by a fellow Bears fan from a podcast and YouTube channel, Lukey and the Bears. I did a spot with him over the summer, but I'll link it in there because he had kind of went through the video of each Mitch Trubisky throw and talking about why, you know, the false narrative of Mitch Trubisky can't read defense and all that. And look, me and him have different point of views on certain things. But again, he's a fellow Bears fan. I'm going to respectfully allow him to, you know, have his opinion. So I think for those people that want that type of video and all that stuff, or they want a different perspective, that'll be cool to check out. So, but with that being said, I said my piece on Trubisky. And again, as I said, looking at what his mindset might have been through the summer and the offseason and what I'm guessing, that doesn't take away from the fact that he can still improve and be the quarterback we need. So we're moving to the next game and we're going to see what happens. Now, Denver Broncos lost in the last game of week 1 against the Oakland Raiders, divisional game. So they're coming off a loss just like we are. They'll be at home. And they played in Oakland, so they didn't have to travel far. So, you know, they're rested up pretty well. Of course, we're playing Vic Fangio, former D coordinator, who everybody's worried because he knows our offense. And I agree. I mean, even with the window dressing and everything, nobody's going to know all the shifts and motions that Nagy's going to run each play. But he knows what his tendencies are and what he likes to do. With that being said, Fangio doesn't have the defense that he had in Chicago. And so I couldn't say that I'm worried as much as people are. But let's look at Denver's last game and kind of break it down. So, again, they lost the game. It wasn't a blowout or anything. It was a well-competitive game for Monday night. But talking about what did Oakland do to them? What were they able to do to them that they were successful with? And number one, you got to talk about Derek Carr and his ability to kind of really decisively carve up that defense. And so looking at Denver's defense, people are tempted to say because, hey, Oakland didn't rush for over 100 yards, even though Josh Jacobs had a good game. They didn't rush for over 100 yards. The passing is really what did them in, the big plays and all that stuff. And I agree with that point, but at the same time, you have Von Miller, one of the best pass rushers. You have Bradley Chubb, a 12-sack rookie, on the opposite side of him. Even though they didn't get any sacks and Oakland seemed to hold up well, that's not something that I would bank on every week when you got those type of pass rushers. And so while Oakland was able to be successful in the passing game, you know, with a lot of quick rhythm things, because that's what Gruden likes. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be short, West Coast. Quick rhythm can be more vertical, especially play action, all that. And so they capitalize on those things. But I'm not going to go into this game thinking that Denver doesn't have threats on the edge that could be a real problem when our best offensive linemen are on the interior. So there's that. So Oakland was able to pass on them. And again, held under 100 yards rushing, but that was more because of the big plays they were able to do in the pass game. As far as defensively, Denver was held just under 100 yards as well. But they were playing behind, and so, of course, they had to pass more. But look, Joe Flacco wasn't bad. He wasn't bad at all. He was able to put together a pretty good game, and he got weapons. So all that narrative about how much Flacco sucks, I never agreed with it. It's all about context, and then, again, you get to this team, you got different weapons, different play calling. You can look different. So I don't think he just flat out sucks, but I do think we're a lot more disciplined than the Oakland defense. And so I think we will have opportunities that they didn't. Even though they got some pressure on him, I think our pressure might be better. And I definitely think one of the teams, or I'll get to that later in our key points. I'll just go to my key points because I don't want to mix them up. But my keys to this game that I'm looking at, number one, we want to get the run game going. Now, this isn't a reaction to the whole, stats from last week. Oh, we didn't run this much, or we didn't run David Montgomery this much. And you know what? It's all hindsight. Yes, I think we should have more balance as a game plan. But the fact is, you could have went in and been perfectly balanced and still had the same result. Just because we lost and didn't run a lot doesn't mean if we ran a lot, we would have won. That's not how that works. Not mutually exclusive. So, understanding this is not a reaction to last week. What I'm saying is our run game needs to get going because Oakland was able to capitalize on play action. While you have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, a lot of the secondary is rebuilt and young. And so Chris Harris, as good as he was, as good as he might be, he can't make up for everybody's stuff. And Simmons is pretty good at safety, but overall they're younger secondary, and they're not as disciplined as they were before. And, of course, great pass rush could change that and help that. But when you had a team like Oakland that was able to stop the pass rush, you saw what they did. So, for me, I don't think we need to get too crazy, but I do think being able to play action and be able to run some misdirection off the run stuff would really hurt this secondary and to an extent their linebacking core, even though Joel's pretty good. But he's limited in coverage. I think that would really stretch this defense and being able to cover it. And so rather than lining up running smoke screens or bubbles or jets and trying to do it that way and spread it out, I'd rather run the ball, keep it contained, get the linebackers and everybody sucked up, and get big plays off play action and different things like that nature. And, run some stack receivers, do some mixed releases so the secondary doesn't know where everybody's going. Get some wide open people that way, kind of like Oakland did. So run game number one for me. Number two, interior pass rush. Not just overall pass rush, because we know that's always important, but interior pass rush. Because, again, Flacco's not a punk. I mean, you watch the tape, and again, on the edge, we got Khalil Mack, of course, so we want him to eat. But I'm looking more so at Akeem Hicks and Bilal Nichols, because if you get on the edge and collapse the pocket, that's nice. That won't happen all the time. More times you're going to run the hoop and try to get to the quarterback. Well, Flacco's seasoned enough to step up and make plays with edge pressure. When you see him completely fold in the defense fold is when he gets quick interior pressure. Quickest way to quarterback is a straight line up the middle. And so when you get interior pressure from a blitz or a stunt or whatever, then Flacco, as we know, not a more mobile quarterback, he's going to fold really quickly. And so I'm looking at our interior pressure. We know Matt can run off the edge and do his thing. We know Leonard Floyd has speed to play off the edge as well. What can we do on the interior? Is that lining Mac up inside a couple times? Doing Mac inside with Floyd outside of him like we've shown before? Is that doing a stunt, like I said, where Mac crashes in? Or, a TE stunt where Akeem Hicks rushes outside and Mac folds in? Is that Roquan Smith blitzing up the middle? Let's get some interior pressure, because if the pressure comes up the middle, most quarterbacks can't handle that, but especially non-mobile quarterbacks. And I think that pressure, even if it's not a free blitz or anything like that, if it's just pushing the pocket up the middle, it's going to really make Flacco comfortable. And you think about it. if you had Akeem Hicks or Bilal Nichols or Eddie Goldman forcing, Flacco to get off his spot in the middle of the pocket, where does he have to go? He has to run right into Mack, or he has to run right into Leonard Floyd, and I take that all day. So interior pressure is big for me. And then number 3, which again can be a blanket one, but I think applies to this situation, low defensive penalties. When you have a team, even though, again, Flacco has weapons, Flacco without pressure can really, sling it to guys that are, getting downfield. But when you have a team like this that doesn't have a great mobile quarterback, you shutting their run game down, they're not bombing it on you. The thing that really helps a strong defense lose a game is penalties. And so it's much like most sports. When you let teams move down the field through the penalties, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you got to the red zone, to be honest. I mean, over the course of the game, you want to move the ball. But honestly, if you have 4 drives where you got pass interferences all the way down the red zone, it doesn't matter because now you're in a position to score points. And so I personally believe, again, if we do the first thing with the interior pressure and then we don't give up many penalties, like if we have 0 penalties on defense, I don't think Denver's moving that far on us. I think the only way Denver moves the ball on us is that we give them penalties to move the ball, or that the offense puts the defense in a bad position where the field position is off and then defense has to play with their back to the wall. So those are the 3 keys that I'm looking at. Number 1, again, run game going, effective run game, not just carries, not just stats, effective run game. Number 2, interior pressure. And number 3, penalty-free defense. So those are the 3 keys I got for this game. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, I'm excited, but honestly, I'm going to just let it go, and we're going to get at it tomorrow, and then we're going to kind of get together as Bears fans and see what we saw. So anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking about for the Denver Broncos game. Are you worried, or what are you worried about? What keys do you have? Any questions you have? All that good stuff. Let's get the conversation started. We got a 3:30 game, so let's keep the conversation rolling right up in the kickoff. Share it around. Check out Lukey and the Bears. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.